Story time about how I caught my roommate with my fiance 3 days ago. My fiance and I have been together for 3 years. He took me on a trip last January and proposed. He's been nothing but an amazing fiance. Families get along super well. My family loves him and he's so kind and gracious to them. On the other hand, my roommate is terrible. He claims to be a model on Instagram, but that's not really what she does. She's actually got a couple of sweet puppies, if you know what I mean. In the past, I've helped her out so much with money because she's always broke. I even loaned her $2,000 just last month to repair her car. My family hates her and they think she's super toxic. I have a soft spot for her because we know each other since high school and I know that she struggled a lot then. I'm a very kind and giving person, but she's totally taken advantage of that. Funnily enough, my fiance hated my roommate when he first met her. He thought the same thing my family did. She constantly monopolized my time, and if I was out on a date with my fiance, if she needed something, she would call me and ask me to go to the supermarket and pick up apples and stuff like that. About 2 months ago, I had to put my foot down. I'm in the process of planning my wedding with one of my best friends, and my roommate is totally stressing me out. She continues to criticize every single thing that I pick. I asked her to be one of my bridesmaids, huge mistake, and she made a fuss about the dress. She wanted a backless dress, but I didn't want that for my bridesmaids at all. I'm not trying to plan an Instagram wedding here. She was so upset about the bridesmaid dress that she actually didn't speak to me for about a week. I had to beg for her to talk to me. Eventually, she told me that she didn't feel sexy in the dress and that she really wanted something she could shine in. My best friend was with us when she told me that, so my best friend quickly corrected her and told me that the only person that needed to be shining that day was me, because I'm the bridesmaid. My roommate got super upset and told me that she didn't want my best friend coming over to our apartment anymore. Obviously, that was going to be a huge no because she was helping me plan the wedding. So instead, I had to get my fiance to come to the apartment and help me out. My fiance works a lot and he's constantly on his phone. He also travels for work a lot, so I knew that he wasn't going to be able to help me all the time. One day, I come home from work and find my fiance and my roommate sitting on the couch chatting. I actually got really happy because I thought maybe they're trying to be friends now. I wanted them to get along. My fiance and I knew that we were going to move in together right after the wedding, so I didn't have a problem with them becoming friends. Fast forward to 4 days ago. My fiance had his bachelor party and I had my bachelorette party. I had so much fun at my party. My roommate was on her best behavior, but she actually told me that she needed to leave early, which I thought was super strange. I get home from my party at around 3 a.m. I was wondering about my fiance, so I decided to call him. The phone goes directly to voicemail. A few minutes later, I get a message from one of his friends. It's a picture of my fiance and my roommate on the couch kissing. Then I get a phone call from the guy that sent me the picture. He told me he thought I needed to know what was going on. He told me that my roommate showed up to my fiance's bachelor party and that she was flirting with him the whole night. He also told me that she was pressuring my fiance to drink. My fiance has never been a big drinker, so it surprised me that he was even drinking at all. He sent me some more pictures of my fiance and my roommate. They were dancing and chatting the whole night. So I decided to show up to the bachelor party unannounced. When I walk in, there they are on the couch. Fiance was pretty inebriated and he was kind of confused too. My roommate, on the other hand, was totally fine. She jumped up from the couch and asked me what I was doing there. I asked her, "What are you doing here?" She actually laughed and told me that my fiance invited her. My fiance was totally out of it since he had been drinking. That's when I pull up my phone and show them the picture of them kissing. They both start to deny it, but I'm like, how can you deny it? I have proof. My roommate told me that she needed to leave and she literally ran away. I actually had to wait for my fiance to sober up for a few hours before he could actually talk. That's when he told me he didn't remember anything. My roommate is refusing to speak to me and told me that she doesn't want to be in the wedding anymore. And I'm like, yeah, of course you're not. The only thing she said was that my fiance came on to her. My family hates him and her now. Parents don't want me to get married, but the wedding is a week away. My fiance swears that she did something to him. He's begging me for forgiveness and I don't know what to do. Please help.
Am I the asshole for snapping at my husband after finding him asleep when he was supposed to watch our son? I'm a new mom and I have a 6-month-old son. I have extended maternity leave, but my husband convinced me to go back to work earlier than I was supposed to. The first week went well, but then this came up. Yesterday I came home from work and found my husband sleeping on the couch. Not flat, but he was sitting up and his head was leaning to the side with our son sleeping in his lap. He was even snoring, if I recall correctly. I was dumbfounded. I loudly called his name, telling him to wake up. He then asked why I came home early, but I asked how long he'd been sleeping like that. He said he didn't know exactly, but after our son fell asleep. It was at this point that I went off on him and said he shouldn't have let our son out of his sight, but he did that when he closed his eyes. He said he was just napping and our son was with him, not in the other room. I stated he should never be sleeping while alone with our son and that there's no one else in the apartment because anything could happen. Again, he said he was just napping and that since he's naturally a light sleeper, then nothing will happen that he wouldn't know about. He said this is just my paranoia since I'm having issues staying away from our son. Our son woke up from the noise we made while arguing and I took him and entered the room. Later, my husband said I overreacted and treated him like a babysitter because instead of seeing him as an equal parent, I scolded him. I'm a father of a 16-year-old daughter. I own a 1-bathroom, middle-sized house where me, my wife, her sister, and her 2 kids live. My daughter had issues with their mother and requested to live with me permanently. She moved in a month ago and her and her stepmom get along. So far, everything's good. My daughter had her period days ago, and my sister-in-law came to me complaining about my daughter leaving used pads in the bathroom. She said that her son saw them, and I asked exactly where, and she said in the trash can. I laughed in her face, asking if she thought this was strange. She got upset and explained that her boys are young and shouldn't be subjected to witness stuff like that. I talked to my daughter, and she said she wraps them with toilet paper, which is enough. Sister-in-law got mad, saying I was dismissing her concerns and reminded me that her oldest has blood phobia and my daughter was unintentionally leaving her pads exposed. I welcomed any ideas, and she suggested my daughter throw her pads outside. I stopped arguing because of how ridiculous she was being. She threatened to change the bathroom door lock, but I laughed her off. My daughter called the next day, saying her aunt refused to let her use the bathroom and was keeping it locked. I went home and blew up on my sister-in-law. She said she would have allowed her if she agreed to put her pads elsewhere, but my daughter was stubborn. My wife came to calm us down, but I told sister-in-law I have no problem kicking her out. I demanded she leaves, but my wife said it's unfair to the kids, and I bluntly said it's not my problem and she has 6 days to move out.
Am I the asshole? My friends got tickets for peeing and another's goldfish died because I couldn't find my car. With the hot weather, I had to get a new air conditioner, and so I went to the mall with 3 of my friends to get one. While we were there, my friend Elaine decided to get a couple of goldfish. When we got back to the parking garage, none of us could remember where I parked my car. I hid my new AC behind a car, and we all started searching. As we were looking, my friend Jerry needed to use the bathroom, and so I suggested he just sneak behind one of the cars. Elaine also began worrying her goldfish would run out of air in the bag. We checked multiple floors and still couldn't find the car. We split up to divide and conquer, and at this point, if it could go wrong, it did. Jerry finally decided to pee behind a car and got caught by security. While the 3 of us were searching without Jerry, George also had to pee, so I suggested he just go behind a car too, and we kept searching without him. Turns out he was caught by security and ticketed as well. Elaine, Jerry, and George happened to meet back up, convinced someone to drive them around the garage, and found my car. However, they couldn't find me. It took me so long to get the AC and find my car that by the time I got back, Elaine's fish had died.
I'm the asshole for kissing and liking my best friend's crush. Last summer, me and my best friend and this guy, I'll call him Ryan, were always together. Me and my best friend always thought Ryan was super cute, and I told her I used to have a crush on him. Well, Ryan and I started hanging out without my best friend a lot more. And things started getting more intense between us, and I started to catch feelings again. We were cuddling in my bed one day, and I really wanted to kiss him, so I grabbed his phone out of his hand and went in for a kiss, and he went in for it too. Every time we hang out alone, we kiss, but we don't tell my best friend. We were both super close with her, but I felt really weird telling her and making it super awkward between all of us. So one day, I was in a big group of people, including Ryan and my best friend. And my best friend asked if we could talk alone. So we went and sat on a bench further away from the group. And she told me she liked him, and I kind of just sat there awkwardly staring at her. I was in complete shock because she never showed any interest. I told her what happened between me and Ryan and how I caught feelings again, and she got super mad at me. But I don't feel like it's my fault because I had no idea. So
Am I the asshole for threatening legal action against my mother? I have a complicated relationship with my parents, and as I've gotten older, it's gotten worse. Recently, my grandpa passed away, and I inherited $125K. When I was told I inherited it, I was excited that I'd be able to afford my dream school. When I tried to get the money transferred to my college savings, I encountered a problem: my mother. She has this idea that since I was the oldest, I would have to pay her back everything, including the medical expenses from before I was 4. I went to ask her to transfer the money into my college savings account, but she refused, claiming that it was rightfully hers because of all that she's done for me. To say I was mad was an understatement. All through my life, she would go into my room and steal. She'd steal cash I had or money that I won from sporting competitions and would cash it for herself. When I was 13, I decided to start keeping a notebook of all the money I'd earned. When I added everything up, including the money from my grandpa, it was about $250K. That's a lot of money for an 18-year-old to imagine, but I saw everything as purely college savings. I went to my mother with a notebook, records of all transactions she made throughout my account, and went through everything with her. First, she was confused, but when she saw the magical grand total, she went nuts. She yelled that was hers since she spent more than that on my medical bills. She destroyed the papers, but I had copies. I sent her an email laying out that I either wanted everything she'd stolen or I would take legal action.
Am I the asshole for leading the way out of a house fire and making sure the way was safe? I, 30s male, was at a birthday party for my girlfriend's son. There was family, friends, food, and even a clown for the little guy. While in the kitchen, I noticed a fire start to break out. My natural leadership instincts immediately kicked in. I, very bravely, decided to be the champion the party needed and led everyone out safely down the hallway and stairs of the apartment building. In order to do this, I had to squeeze past a few of the partygoers. I will admit, in my haste, I may have put a little bit too much heroic strength into the gentle nudge I was using to clear my path. This resulted in a few of the partygoers being knocked onto the floor. Caught in the crossfire was my girlfriend, a few of the kids, the clown, and my girlfriend's elderly mother. After everything was deemed to be safe, the EMTs outside were berating me, soon to be joined by my girlfriend, her mother, and the clown. I tried to explain that I was being a leader, but my girlfriend Robin said that she heard me scream, quote, "Get out of my way!" Tried to explain that if the leader died, then all hope would be lost. My survival was imperative. When questioned about pushing people to the ground, I merely explained that the safest place to be in a fire is on the floor away from the smoke. Am I the asshole here? At it, the fire was a grease fire, and the clown put it out by using his big shoe. However, I still feel that I should be commended for being the beacon of leadership in an otherwise frightening situation.
Am I the a-hole for reporting my coworker to HR and our manager's manager? My department at work is just me, my coworker, and our manager. Both my coworker and I have the same title and duties. My coworker has volunteered that she, 1, has been diagnosed with both ADHD and anxiety, and 2, doesn't take medication even though she needs it because she feels more free and creative without it. She can't focus on anything. She is constantly distracted. She starts tasks and leaves them unfinished. She procrastinates on everything. I can't stand having meetings with her because she can't focus. She doesn't do things if they make her uncomfortable, like talking on the phone some days if it's a bad day. We work in a field that is licensing and regulations. Think accountant, attorney, things like that. When she doesn't complete things, I have to do it because there's a legal deadline. When she doesn't return calls to clients because of procrastination, I'm left scrambling to apologize and do it. Or just leave it except for 1, missing deadlines, ignoring clients, and procrastinating on tasks has real work consequences and could lead to bad things and problems for people. And 2, it could affect my own license and standing because I'm equally responsible for the department. My coworker just laughs or blows me off, and my manager never does anything when I bring up the missed deadlines, not returning calls, emails, etc. So I ended up reporting my coworker to HR and my manager's manager because my wife convinced me to do so. I had to fix a mess she made by missing a deadline that badly affected a client. I spent time on the phone with a client who was in tears. Normally I keep the offer separate from the rest of my life, but I cried myself hoarse when I got home. I didn't mention her ADHD or anxiety when I reported. I stuck to facts about deadlines, clients, procrastination, and other things going on in our office. My manager's manager was livid. I found out he ripped my boss and coworker a new one. From now on, my manager and coworker are going to have their work checked externally. He apologized to me and several clients. Why I'm second-guessing my decision now is because my manager and coworker are angry with me. My boss pointed out that I have no idea what it's like to have ADHD and anxiety. She says my coworker's doing her best, and I just made it worse. My boss said I should have just continued on and left her alone, and now I've made her life harder, and she's feeling worse. My manager said my coworker was inconsolable and can't understand why I would tattle. Both of them are giving me the cold shoulder. My intention wasn't to hurt my coworker. I just thought my manager's manager and HR needed to know how bad things got. I admit I never tried to find a solution with my coworker. I'm hoping to be pregnant by the end of the year, and I know the stress and losing sleep won't help things. I honestly didn't mean to hurt my coworker.
I was invited to a high school friend's wedding which took place just the day before. We were friends in high school and have kept in touch via social media, and we met up on occasion in the recent years. I brought my fiance along to have a wonderful time and introduce her to some of my old acquaintances from a different point of my life. Now, I tried to put high school as far from my head as possible. It was without a doubt the darkest time of my life. My mother was ill, and my home life was a disaster owing to my father's rage over my mother. As her health deteriorated, he turned to booze rather than being there for us. And after she died, things grew even worse. He was reduced to a shell of a human being. This was also the moment when Derek began to torture me. From freshman through to senior year, I was harassed, humiliated, mocked, and beaten up at least once a week. I'm guessing it's because of his father's huge wealth that the school did nothing about it. No matter how hard I tried, no one was willing to help me. This was the time I was diagnosed with severe mental health issues. I was able to graduate and get out of that filthy environment. My college years were enjoyable, but then I met Cindy. She was the only one who ever saw me for who I am. I adore her and she's my rock. I gave her a ring. To be honest, I'm not convinced that's still the case. I told her about the bullying I'd experienced and gave her his name. She had no idea who he was. I tried to put that nonsense in the past. We say hello to everyone when we get to the wedding and I introduce her to the people I know. And then I see Derek, and it's as if I'm seeing things. He has the largest smile on his face when he spotted me staring at him. So he knew I felt that way. Just seeing him made me feel like my heart was sinking and on the verge of having a panic attack. I informed my fiancé about it and pointed him out. Something to consider. I didn't expect it to be an issue because he's my old bully, but he's her ideal type. Super fit gym body, extremely tall, attractive, and with black hair. When we completed the ceremony and attended the reception, I'm making the most of my time with her by dancing, drinking, and generally having a wonderful time. I'm attempting to ignore the fact that he's standing right next to me. My fiancée becomes slightly inebriated and informs me that she wants to use the restroom. I tell her everything is fine and I'll wait for her. And then wait some more. And then I wait some more. And it had been about 30 minutes since she'd departed, and I was concerned that something was seriously wrong. I invited one of my female friends to accompany